Today, we welcome back Julie Thompson, who graced your screen and shaped our team here at the local scene by PACTV for 12 years. Julie came on in 2012 in an administrative position and also became the face you recognize as lead anchor on PACTV Community News. She rose quickly to become executive director of the organization in 2018 and stewarded us through the COVID pandemic. Not one employee was laid off during that terrible time. Her dedication to this nonprofit community media center inspired her decision to step back from leadership in May 2023 to take on a much-needed fundraising position while continuing her on-air work, interviewing candidates for office and local officials. Now, as Julie is choosing the next adventure in her career, we thought it would be fun to take a closer look at the person we here and in the community know and love as Jules. Okay. Jules.
Hi there, Elizabeth.
Hello. So welcome back.
Thank you.
And let's talk about Jules for once, because you're always interviewing everyone else.
I know, this is very odd.
It is very weird,
to be the interviewee,
right?
yeah.
So let's talk about Julie before the local scene. Baby Julie, where did you come from?
Julie grew up basically on the South Shore. My dad was in an industry where we had to live in Wisconsin and New York when I was little, upstate New York, which was always blizzardy, but that was okay. But moved to Hanover when I was in my junior high and stayed there through high school. Went to college at Bridgewater. I loved it. I studied theater.
Why am I
Of
not
course,
surprised?
because I wanted to be the world's second Carol Burnett.
Yes.
I always loved comedy. Every role I had was comedy in high school or in college. But then I met a guy, and that changed everything. And I got married in 1982 and had children in 1990. And between that, I worked for Aramark, I worked at a bank, and all this time I was also a dance instructor and choreographer, which I loved.
And I have seen because we are Facebook friends,
Yeah.
I have seen comments from people saying, I loved Julie, my dancing school instructor.
Oh, that was sweet, yeah.
It's clear that it's something that you loved.
I loved it. And it's coordinating things, it's putting things together, which is I loved about choreography, which is what I do.
Which is what
I'm an organizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now talk about how did you come to what was known as PACTV at the time? We've had a rebrand. We're the local scene now.
So I was on the board of directors of Pembroke Media Broadcast, which was every town really had its own little tiny community access station back in the 80s and the 90s. And the one in Pembroke was in a building that was going to be torn down. And we just decided that we were going to find out from PACTV if we could come merge with them, because they had merged with other towns, Kingston and Duxbury. So we did, and the rest is history. I started here part-time as just a bookkeeper and a little admin, and an opening came up for the PACTV Community News, and I ended up being the anchor for that for years, which I loved.
The lead anchor.
Well, it was an anchor with,
Yes.
with other co-anchors.
Yes.
And I loved it. And what I learned most is I love interviewing people.
Yeah.
I love finding out what makes them tick, what makes their job work, how it's all connected. And people often are so nervous. And one thing that I loved is people always said, you make me feel so relaxed, which is, I always say, we're just having a chat.
Yeah.
And I think if more people just sat down and had a chat once in a while with other people, the world would be a totally different place.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So anchoring has been something that consistently, you were the anchor for PACTV Community News,
Yep.
and then the local scene,
Yep.
the weekly news show,
Yep.
but also you've been the face of our election services.
Right, and I love that. I love interviewing people and doing moderation of debates, if that's what you want to call them, forums, I like to call them. And what I learned most about election services is we always have to be at PACTV Switzerland. At the local scene, we have to be
That's true.
Switzerland. We can't lean right, left, in between, or anything else. We have to just present candidates or subjects as they are, and let the people decide who they want to support, who they want to go for, who they want to vote for, whatever it is.
And that's a skill set that you have always exhibited exceptionally in interviewing someone and being welcoming, open, but also teasing out the details that people want to know. So
Yeah, right.
is that something that you've cultivated? Of course you have, but has also come naturally to you?
I think so. I hate gotcha reporting.
Yeah.
I hate when people just ask a question to get an answer that they know is going to upset someone. That's not helpful.
No.
It's not helpful. So to me, people want to see the real person that you're interviewing, whether it be a job, whether it be a candidate, whether it be a coach. They want to know what makes that person tick, and not what are the memorized lines that that person might have, but what. And you can only really get that when you have conversations with people versus giving people questions and say, I want you to answer this, which is why we never give anybody really the questions before we ask them.
No, and you always reveal a little bit of yourself. You're right there with the person.
Yeah.
So that encourages them to reveal themselves too, and just to have a conversation.
Absolutely, because that's you and I have often talked about how the art and science of just talking face to face is just going away. And everybody's on their phone. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the local scene is you really do face-to-face everything. Whether it's an on the local scene production that you're doing about something or someone, or interviewing, or whatever it is, it's people on people.
Yes.
And it's a dying art, and I hope it never dies completely, because we'd miss it.
I agree. We're going to diverge a little bit to go to a dark place, but something that you heralded, COVID, 2020, because you became the executive director in 2018, and we were on a roll. We started the local scene. There were so many impactful initiatives, right? That
I know.
we were really excited about. And then a global pandemic.
Right.
But through that global pandemic, the entire time with you as executive director, we didn't lose one person. Can you talk about the challenges and the initiatives that you heralded even during that time?
Sure. It took everybody by surprise, I think.
Yeah.
How quickly we shut down versus how slowly we came back open again.
Yeah.
And what was so important to me was that we continued to do what we did, which was inform people of what was going on. And the only way we could do that really was ended up having daily updates with people from the health departments and business leaders and state representatives and town managers and nonprofit leaders, so that everybody could say, okay, how is this affecting me? How is this affecting our business? How is this affecting you?
Yes.
How can we help each other? And the one thing that I found so amazing about COVID was if you went on Facebook.
Yeah.
No, the good thing was
Okay.
as I can't find, diapers for my kid. And that as soon as you see that, 25 people say, I saw some at CVS, I'll pick them up for you and I'll take them.
That's true.
There was suddenly we were all united against one common enemy, which was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that really hadn't happened before, not in my lifetime anyway.
September 11th, maybe.
Oh, September 11th, absolutely. But that was the United States. This is a worldwide pandemic.
Yes.
No, you're absolutely right, and I don't mean to not mention that. But we literally, September 11th didn't shut down everybody.
Right.
This shut everybody down.
Yeah.
And I said, no, we're not shutting down. We're going to ramp up.
We didn't miss one day.
We didn't miss. No, as a matter of fact, we worked every day. We worked 24/7. We really were.
Yes.
We did everything that we humanly could do to not only keep information going, but to keep the good stories going,
Yes.
which is what you did, helming your show, which was so important to give people hope and inspiration and light and a little humor.
And a little humor.
And a little humor during all this. So I think collectively we got an A+ in my book for everybody who worked here, selflessly, because we all wore the masks and we had to hang up all kinds of shower curtains, really thick shower curtains, clear ones, because we didn't want to go through the expense. We're a nonprofit of creating all these things with plexiglass, which would have cost us a fortune.
No.
So we did what we had to do.
We did, and we also hosted fundraisers for community organizations.
Yeah, we did for the one fund, Coachella, which was like a musical, we did right in here in Studio A.
Yeah.
With
the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce.
With the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, and it was for the One Fund, which is a great nonprofit that helps businesses that are in trouble. And a lot of people took advantage of that during COVID.
So people survived. And the Plymouth Phil, our friends at the
That's
Phil.
right.
We did popping in.
We did popping in, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right. Which is really weird because for musicians it must have been exceptionally tough. Singers can't sing in front of anybody, right?
Yeah.
Musicians can't use their instruments in the presence of anyone, but they did it all, they all came in remotely.
Yeah.
And we put it together, and it was a beautiful show, and it raised a ton of money for the Phil.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we qualified for PPP,
Yeah.
especially since we kept everybody employed.
Yes.
So yeah, I think, and then because of that, we got Business of the Year for the Plymouth Chamber.
In 2020.
In 2020,
Yes.
and we got a citation from the Senate and the House of Representatives
Yes.
for what PACTV, at the time it was PACTV, did
Yeah.
for the community.
And speaking of this organization and community media, in 2023, you testified at the State House, before
Yes,
the State House.
yes.
You want to talk about
Yeah,
the streaming bill?
Very few people know the community media centers, like the local scene here, are funded strictly by cable revenues. And that was back in 1984, that was determined by the federal government that cable, if you were going to now have cable TV, the cable companies had to pay a little tiny amount to all the municipalities that had people who had their products in their town.
Tiny
It's really
in
tiny.
your cable bill.
A tiny thing in their cable bill. And 10, 12 years ago, streaming started. And you've heard of cord cutting, and people are all cutting the cord. So their tiny sliver of what we're getting is coming from a much smaller population now. So the funding mechanism for community media is basically going away.
Yeah.
But there was a bill that said, okay, why can't streaming companies do the same thing? A tiny piece of that streaming bill would also feed into your local community media center. The bill has gone back and forth a million times. I testified in front of the group that's in charge of it, and it's still pending. I mean, it might happen.
It's in committee, right?
It's in committee. It might happen.
Ways and
It might
Means.
not. We can only hope, because
Hopefully.
local community media is critical.
What impact? So we talk about community media, and people say, "Is this the news, or what is it?" When you're explaining to people what you've been doing for the last 12 years and where we've been doing it, and we have this conversation all the time, we both ardently believe that local community media has an impact because it's your local sports, it's the stories about the people in your neighborhoods.
Right.
Do you believe that community media still has a place and can have an impact?
Local is everything. I mean, we all live in a house,
Yeah,
right? Or an
yeah.
apartment, or
Yeah.
or somewhere, and then we travel down roads that are local.
Yeah.
We have neighbors. We go to supermarkets. We go to restaurants.
Yeah.
Everything, really, when you think about it, unless you commute for a job,
Yeah.
you have a little tiny cosmos of a world
100%.
that
all of
is
us.
dependent on each other.
Yes.
And that's not going to go away,
No.
especially in this part of the country where we're so densely populated. We got to help each other. We have to support each other. We have to lift each other up.
And that's why it's important to know about your neighbor. Maybe
Absolutely.
people in neighborhoods don't talk to each other, right?
But that was another thing about the pandemic, that suddenly, like, I know I met 3 neighbors I didn't even know during the
Yeah.
pandemic, because nobody left anymore. They didn't go to Boston.
Yeah.
They were walking around in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that part was good. But yeah, community media is never going to not be important, ever.
I agree. Let's talk some more about Julie.
Yeah.
So
Exciting.
Throughout all of this, continuing your anchoring with A Closer Look, which is a look at town officials and people who work in our municipalities, and election services and other interviews and projects. You've also taken on new skill sets and produced some packages in the community, and have continued your work with the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, who I love.
Who
I
you
can't
love.
say enough about the Chamber
You're
of
on the
Commerce.
board of
Yep.
the Chamber and have
Yep.
done so much work with the Chamber and for the Chamber, and also as on-air talent in Dancing with the Stars, and you were a competitor on Dancing with Our Stars.
We don't want to talk about
Fantastically.
that.
Well, we can roll the footage, Ben.
No, we're not going to roll the footage.
Of that. But also, through your continuing work, this year you were awarded the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce's Inspiring Leader of 2024.
Which really blew me away. I had no idea. And if I inspire people,
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
And if I inspire people, it's just because what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
We're real. We don't pretend we're anything we're not. We try to strive to do the best we possibly can.
Yeah.
And if that makes me an inspiring leader, go for it. I
Go
love it.
for it. So what's next? You have initiatives, I know, coming up with the Chamber, but you have other initiatives going on in your life.
Yeah, well, hopefully I will still be doing moderating the town hall candidate event that we'll do sometime in October. The Chamber sponsors it, and that will be the people that are running for state senate, for the state representative, and for the municipal government, county government, Plymouth County government spots. And that's really important this year, more than as is the national election this year. It's we're at a critical time in our country for people to decide what direction do they want to go in. And again, it's if you present people with facts, they make the decisions.
Well done. And you have another initiative?
Well, and my two greatest important things in my life, well, three. My husband, and he's my second husband.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave. And my two children, Alex and Abby. Alex is out in LA. He's an inspiring and aspiring director-writer for movies. And Abby is moved here to Plymouth with her fiance. And she is going to launch a entrepreneurial something. And we're not ready to talk about it yet.
Okay.
And I'm going to be helping her with that. And then I would obviously I'm open to any kind of part-time role. I mean, on LinkedIn I look like I'll do anything. And that's, it's goofy, but I have some skill sets, and I get bored easily doing the same. I can't do the same thing every day. Can't do it. So I love project work. Yeah. And so I would absolutely be open to project work or anything else.
And your tremendous skill set, what the thread that runs through everything is your tremendous skills of communication.
Thank you.
Which applied on air, applied in, as a liaison in so many different ways, taking advantage of those strong skills would be a benefit to any organization or project.
I agree. And the one thing that I think, and you're a lot like me in this way, is I'll just tell it like I see it.
Yeah.
And I don't fluff around with bull. It's like if I'm in a meeting and somebody says, "What do you think?" I'm going to tell them what I really think. And I won't be rude about it. But I'm always going to, I try to look at everything from like 85 different points. And this is what you're trying to get at. And I try to poke holes in the 85 different points. So that you refine them as you go along, so that whatever you end up with has been pretty well vetted. And that's what I love to do. That's why I loved choreography. Because it's the same thing. You're moving 20 bodies around a stage to music, and they all have to end up in something that makes sense. And stories are choreography, life is choreography.
I love that. And I think we'll end there.
Okay,
Jules,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.